What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Ideal Offseason. This is the series where I get to put on the GM cap for a little bit and help an NBA team navigate through their offseason. We try to keep this series as realistic as possible, meaning I'm not just throwing LeBron on some team and saying, all right, job done, we're contenders now. No, we're trying to take a look at a team and see where they're actually at in real life and try to make moves that would actually make some sense for them. Like if we're the San Antonio Spurs, probably not winning the finals next year, right? So we're trying to make moves to make them incrementally better while still having a good direction going forward. Whereas if we're the Lakers or something, right, and when they do have LeBron, well, we're trying to win a championship. But hey, if you guys like this series, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment. I've responded to every single comment on my YouTube channel up to this point, and I intend to keep on doing so. And I'm going to challenge you guys as well. When you guys leave your comments, don't just leave a comment like, oh, this guy sucks or something like that. I want this to be a community of people where we can actually have some good conversations. We're respectful of each other. We're all just trying to take in more information. But anyway, let's get into the video. Alrighty, so we're here on the Ideal Offseason spreadsheet. For those of you that don't know, this is a little spreadsheet that I put together to kind of help me visualize and bring this series to life. If you guys want access to this spreadsheet, I've given it to over 100 people already. At this point, I'm not going to count anymore where I'm at. I'm just going to make assumptions. I know it's over 100. But anyway, if you guys want access to the spreadsheet, really, really simple. Leave me a comment, something along the line saying I would like access to the spreadsheet. That helps my video do better, right? Transparency, that's good and everything, or transparency. Then what I'll do is I'll drop you a link to my Discord. Once you guys have that, you can jump on my Discord and shoot me a DM. That's where I'll give you the spreadsheet. Really nice, really simple. But anyway, Houston Rockets today. This is the last team that was on my list that wasn't still playing in the season, right? Because as of right now, I'm recording this on Friday before the Dallas and Celtics game 4. So if you guys end up seeing this video on Sunday, that means the Mavericks held them off. If you guys don't see that until sometime afterwards, well, that is exactly why. Man, I hope Luka has a good game tonight. But anyway, the Houston Rockets are in a pretty good situation, I would say. They've got a lot of young talent on the team, young talent that's starting to figure things out a little bit as well. They've got access to some pretty good draft picks. They're not in too bad of a cap situation by any means. Eventually, they're going to have to pay some of these young dudes, but this next season is a very unique opportunity where they can still take in a decent amount of salary to try to make themselves more competitive. Because like we've talked about with teams like the Pistons or maybe even the Hornets and stuff like that, it's okay, we've spent enough time accumulating all these young, decent players and everything and trying to build something with them. Let's start winning some basketball games. That's when development really starts to happen. To win games, you got to win some games, right? And that, I know that sounds like a crazy comment, but I think you guys know what I mean by that. We're trying to start winning some basketball games now. By the way, if I'm fumbling over my words at all today, it's because I've slept maybe 2 hours each of the last 5 or 6 nights. It's just a busy time of the year. I'm watching a lot of film and doing a lot of work right now. So just is what it is, and hopefully I still have some sanity left as I'm making these moves. If I make any bad moves, we can blame it on that. But anyway, let's start our deep dive into the Houston Rockets here. So not a bad cap space situation overall. We haven't even hit the luxury tax yet, which is good. We're over the cap, so we're not signing any big free agent or anything like that. But we've got a lot of movable contracts, and so I feel pretty good about that all said and done. Looking at our draft picks, we've got the 3rd overall pick, which I'm going to be honest with you, we're not keeping it. There's nobody at the 3rd overall pick that's just worth picking with that one. I know what people are going to say, well, either you're going to say one of two things. Go get Donovan Clingan. I don't really think it's necessary. We've got a bunch of other centers that we're fine with right now. Or they want Reed Shepherd. I don't think the value of Reed Shepherd at 3 makes sense. Here's the thing. If when we do our draft, Reed Shepherd is available and we've traded down or something like that, hell yeah, I'm going to consider him and everything. But I don't need to take him with that one. We also have the 44th pick. We've got a couple other first-round picks going forward, a couple other swaps and things like that. So in a pretty solid situation there. Breaking down the roster now, Fred VanVleet's making his money, had another really productive season last year, so shout out Fred VanVleet. Dylan Brooks, obviously, you can have your opinions on Dylan Brooks. At the end of the day, I don't mind having what I call just a bruiser on the team, a guy that's just willing to fight the other team and piss people off. Sometimes it hurts you, sometimes it helps you. For the time being, he's on the team. We'll see where he's at the end of this video. I don't have a plan to move him necessarily because I think he's still a pretty good NBA player all said and done. But no, I like having Dylan Brooks on the team here. They brought in Steven Adams, who's already technically a new addition to the team because he was a mid-season trade. He was out for the season due to injury. You now have a really good backup center in Steven Adams. You got some of the young guys now, Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, Amen Thompson. We got a couple of team options here, and I'm going to let you know right now we're picking up all those. Jalen Green started to figure it out for a stretch there this last season. I noticed when I was watching him that he just seemed a little bit more, we'll say, conscious of like his movements on the court. The thing with Jalen Green has never been talent, right? It's always been what's going on up here, and it seemed like, at least for a little bit at points of the season, he was like, okay, like I'm actually taking the time to process what's happening at the court. I'm not just like sprinting at people anymore and trying to go over them like he could all the time growing up, right? And so I'd like to hope that that's still a trend that's going to move forward. I don't plan on trading Jalen Green in this video. No, I can already tell you I'm not going to trade Jalen Green at all in this video, especially with like the news today that like the Nets are just not trading Mikal Bridges, like just not all that interested in trading him. So I don't know what I'd be trading Jalen Green for outside of him. Like Donovan Mitchell, I don't think Donovan Mitchell's going anywhere. So I think we're going to keep trying to build with Jalen Green. Jabari Smith Jr., a guy that honestly showed some improvement in his second season. I know that he hasn't quite taken the jump that we all maybe expected him to yet. It's kind of a clustered team, and it's hard to find development and all these like uncertain roles and everything. But at the end of the day, you've got a pretty big power forward that moves pretty well, plays good defense, sees the game incredibly well, can shoot the three ball a little bit. It's at like 36% right now in like 5 attempts, I want to say, something like that. So we take that, and honestly, like the field goal percentage, like while it's still not maybe great, did increase quite a bit from his rookie year, so we got to give him credit there. It's continued growth every single year, and that's the hope. Amen Thompson, I love Amen Thompson so much, currently slated right here. Both the Thompson twins I just like so much. I think they do everything so well, obviously except the shooting, but any of you guys are like, oh, Amen Thompson can't shoot, so he's not good for like this or that. I'm like, he's literally good at everything else, so like just relax, all right? Not everybody's gonna be Michael Jordan. We have Jacques Landale, who got himself a real nice contract coming to this team, was not very good this last season at all, which is really weird. I was kind of digging Jacques Landale when he was in, was it Phoenix? I think it was Phoenix before that, but his contract isn't even guaranteed, so we don't have to do anything with that, but I think he's a good trade chip too, because here's the thing, like $8 million helps fill a little bit of salary. Teams don't actually have to keep him. That's an extremely valuable contract. You got Uncle Jeff, who's on a team option for $9.5 million. I like having Jeff Green on the team as like a vet or something like that, but I don't necessarily plan on keeping him for $9.5 million. If he fits into a trade somewhere cool, we can use him the same way we might use Jacques Landale today. Otherwise, I'm probably just not going to pick up his team option. You have Jayshawn Tate, who's a nice defender, all said and done. The offensive game hasn't quite figured itself out yet, so not really sure what we're doing with him. He's certainly a person that could get moved. Alfred Şengün, probably the best player on this team, in all honesty. Like, he just does so many things so well. And why is he like the sneakiest athlete in the NBA? Like, if you guys just like go watch him play, like, he doesn't even have like great dorsal flexion when he actually like goes up to try and like be athletic, but somehow he still like floats and like really gets up. He's strong. He like in a lot of his dunks, it's really impressive. So I love AP. I think he's a great player. Obviously a center we want to start to build around. Tari Eason is a really interesting player. Again, kind of more of a defensive player. Obviously, he just didn't play a ton this year. I want to say it was less than like 25 games or something like that. But in the 25 he played, like, it really wasn't that bad. Like, his three-point shot was solid. He played really good defense, and that's kind of what you get out of Tari Eason. But he might be one of those guys that's buried beneath all these other decent young dudes, and so maybe he's part of a trade as well. And then we got Cam Whitmore, who is a really talented basketball player. He was projected to go like 5th in the draft last year, and he ended up falling because, just giving you guys a little insight, when he did all of his interviews and everything and people were like watching him like actually play, they were like, okay, this guy's like maybe not like the brightest up here, but, and that kind of showed at points during this season. Like, he is a complete black hole when he gets the ball, which is sometimes really good for a score. Like, there are times where you can tell he's just like, nah, I'm gonna put my head down and I'm just running at the rim and I'm gonna make something happen, and that's really cool sometimes. Other times we're missing some really easy plays and it kind of messes with things a bit too much, but that's what we're here to develop, right? I think he's too talented to possibly give up in anything, so I'd like to keep Cam Whitmore around. But yeah, that's a little outlook on this team. The first thing I want to do, though, is I want to move probably down from this 3rd pick and see if we can't pick up some like win now players along the way, because when we look at this team, What are some things that we're missing? Shooting, shooting, shooting. We need to add a shooter to this team, like maybe a couple of them, right? So moving down in the draft, maybe finding another way to get another shooter still in like the top 10. Here's the thing that we have to keep perspective of too when we're making these trades. Like, this draft class is not very good. There's not a big difference between a lot of these guys as you move down. So if we move down from like 3 to like 10 or something like that, we're probably not getting the greatest haul in the world. I actually saw somebody write something about this like a day or two ago, now that I think about it, on like ESPN or something like that, where teams are like, well, look, like it's not a huge difference to go from here to here. It's really just the value of being able to pick the guy you want. Like, you're probably not going to get a ton else for him. So I want to try and see if I can use the 3rd pick to work with some other teams and some other pieces that I think could be moving during the offseason to see if we can't raise the value of it a little bit more. I'm sure what I was saying there was somewhat confusing, but like I said, I'm sleep deprived. We're back here on Fanspo, y'all. We're going to use their trade machine. It's a really cool thing that helps us kind of keep track of everything. I really, really like these tools. You guys should go mess with them as well. I think there's a really basic trade that works right here, right now. And this is exactly what I'm thinking right here with the Memphis Grizzlies. The Memphis Grizzlies are trying to acquire assets. They're trying to win basketball games this year, much like us, and they're probably a rival of us in some capacity, but I think we can help each other out in this sense. So to start, number 3 overall pick, going over to the Grizzlies. My idea is they probably want Donovan Clingan. They've made it very clear they want to go get a new center. This is their opportunity to go get Donovan Clingan, right? At the very least, we're taking the 9th pick back, right? Give us that pick back. Thank you very much. What happens after that is we take a nice shooter in Luke Kennard. And when I say nice shooter, I mean elite shooter. He comes over here to the Rockets. And now this move alone, like, I'd probably say, like, you have to throw another 2nd-round pick or something on it. But this move alone, and let's try this just to say, like, okay, oh, we actually failed. We do not have the cap space to sign Luke Kennard. Okay, that's totally fine. We can adjust it from there. But regardless, we're not really done with the trade anyway, but that's good information to have. I want to bring a Luke Kennard in. I feel like we should be getting supplemented more from going down to 3 to 9. So I want to try and figure out, and I haven't thought this part through yet. So I have to think about, like, what's another team that's trying to make some moves this offseason that can actually get in on this trade? Because here's some of the things I want to try to do. I want to try to move a Jacques Landale. Jayshawn Tate is somebody that could go. Tari Eason is somebody that could go. I wouldn't mind holding on to Tari if I could, but Tate and Jacques Landale are definitely 2 guys that I wouldn't mind moving. So who could use these guys? Who could use a backup center and a younger wing to develop? I suppose in this situation, this could also be a team trying to relieve themselves of some cap space. So that's another perspective we can have going into this. But I got to think about this for a second of where I can send these guys to where it's going to be beneficial to them. Like, what about a team like Sacramento? Because they're not going to have necessarily a backup center for next year. Where are they at currently? Yeah, they're in the same situation as us, where they're not in like too bad of a cap situation. They could probably use a backup center, and maybe they want to relieve themselves of some other money. I don't necessarily know, because why would they be doing that? Like, Malik Monk is going to be a challenge for them to re-sign no matter what, and like, are they really going out to get some sort of particular free agent? Maybe not. Well, is there something that we can do with the Sacramento Kings? I'm really spitballing here right now, y'all. So here's my thought. Like, Kevin Huerter is an interesting player, right? Like, obviously had a down year in Sacramento. Traditionally, he's a good, like, 3-point shooter, pretty solid athlete. Like, how can I also route him to this team? Because here's the thing, the Kings probably don't want him, right? They probably wouldn't mind finding a way to get rid of him. Is there a way that we can get him over here to Houston as well? I would love to have the Red Rocket wearing some red as a Rocket. Whoa. I imagine somebody like a Brandon Clark being pretty valuable to the Sacramento Kings. So I would move him somewhere over there as like a backup center, a nice energy guy to bring off their bench. That's a different level of kind of dynamicness for them. Moves Kevin Huerter out of the way so that they've got, if Malik Monk comes back at all, that's a really good thing. But also Keon Ellis, obviously, is able to continue to develop. Okay, so what has the Grizzlies taken on at this point? They haven't taken on any players yet. Let's just see where we're at with this trade and everything. Yeah, no, we have to move some people out. So where can we move some people? Let's start off with Jacques Landell. We could move him back to the Grizzlies because they're still saving a very considerable amount of change by doing this, and it gives them depth at center, presumably, right? So they're going to go take like Klingon or something like that. They'll have another backup center that's cheap enough for them to kind of add a little bit of depth to them. I presume they're going to keep him in this case. We're going to try this trade. I presume it still doesn't work. It's actually a success. Are we breaking any rules by doing this? Are any of the aprons like violated or anything by doing this? I'm not saying that the trade is done or anything, but no, none of the apron rules or anything would be broken right about now. So let me just evaluate this as of right now. We're taking on 2 players in this, and we're moving down in the draft, right? That's the big thing, is the Grizzlies got to move up in the draft. They gave up 2 players, one they probably didn't really necessarily want, and Luke Kennard. They gave up Brandon Clark, which is somewhat valuable. That's probably fair to move up to the 3rd pick for them. They get a center back too, which is cool, and the Kings turned Kevin Herter into Brandon Clark, which I would presume they're pretty happy about. Is this just like a good trade in itself? Kind of want to move up in the 2nd round as well. I feel like that's another thing that could be discussed here. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to move this over to the Grizzlies. We're going to take this one back as the Rockets. And again, let's take a look at this trade now. So we moved up in the 2nd round. We moved down in the 1st, took one of their players. They get a player back. They moved up in the draft. No, I think that this is pretty solid, all said and done. I don't think this is the worst thing I've ever seen. I like that the Kings were kind of able to get in on this, save a little bit of cash, get off a player that they probably weren't all that interested in keeping, get somebody they do need, because it's hard to find a center right now in this market. I know Brandon Clark's coming off an injury, so maybe we have to supplement them just like a little bit more to keep them happy. Like, here's what else we can do, right? Like, we've got this 2nd round pick. They've got 2 2nd round picks. Like, the Kings have a 2nd round pick, so we don't really need to move those around necessarily. Honestly, I'm pretty happy with this trade. I think this trade makes a lot of sense for all teams involved, so I think we're just going to execute on this and say that this is where we went with it. Alrighty, so what all did I just do now? So Jacques Landell is gone. That means that I no longer have to worry about this. Who else did we even trade in this one? I don't even know. Was it just Landell? It was just Landell that left for us, and we're taking back 2 people. We're taking back a Kevin Herter, and we're taking back a Luke Kennard that we're picking up his option for. I meant to put Luke Kennard right there. There we go. Where does that take us? We still actually haven't even hit the luxury tax yet, which is kind of insane. So, okay, fair enough. Let's assign these guys some spots. Let's just assume that Luke Kennard is here. We're just accumulating talent right now, if nothing else, just adding talent to the team. And I'm just gonna move Kevin Herter here. We're going to try to clear up a little bit more rotational space for these guys, like, because Cam Whitmore could play a couple different positions and everything, but I just like having these 2 guys on the team. This now becomes a different pick. Let's change that up there. So this now becomes the Nets pick, which is at 39. We moved up a little bit in the 2nd round, and this is now the 9th pick via the Grizzlies. So that's totally fine. We could still get a decent player in this draft with that pick. I don't know who it's going to be yet, but I think depending on who we get in the draft and everything with these last 2 picks is going to influence what we do with probably the next trade on this team. Like, you could say we could probably use a little bit more shooting at the point guard position, but otherwise this is an incredibly deep basketball team we've already built. We're going to want to solidify the center position a little bit more. Maybe this is something where we reach and take a center here. I don't know. Like, I feel bad taking young players on a team that has this much depth and everything already. You can make the argument as well that, like, they're just really going to get a chance to develop, and this year's class isn't that good anyway, though. So I don't necessarily feel the worst about that, and I don't know. I think we should just go into the draft and see who's available and make our selection from there. Alrighty, y'all. So we're back on Fanspo. For those of you that don't know, like, the Fanspo mock draft simulator, the reason that we use it is because it adds a little bit more sense of realism to the series, because otherwise I'm just being like, hey, this guy could get picked in this range, so I'm going to pick him here. That's not how I want to do things. So we technically don't have the 3rd pick anymore. We're trading this pick with, where are our boys, the Grizzlies, at? There's the Memphis Grizzlies, so we're actually swapping. I don't want to sign in and create an account right now. I actually do have one, but for whatever reason it logged me out and I can't get logged back in. It literally just won't let me click the login button. So we're swapping these picks for these picks right here. This is the trade that's taking place. Are they actually going to take Klingon with it? Please tell me they're actually going to take Klingon. There we go. Now it all makes some sense. And in this universe, right? And where's Reed Shepherd? Don't tell me we're actually going to end up with Reed. Oh, that would have been such a good storybook moment right there. Oh, Dalton Connect is so good. I like Dalton Connect. I'm looking at our roster and I'm like, I just don't need another wing. I've got wings on wings on wings and people that can play wings. I need bigs and guards on this team right now. So what I want to explore is options like that, right? Looking at guys that can play those positions, Devin Carter would be a really nice guy to pick up. Let's take a look at Devin Carter for just a second here. I think Devin Carter could be a really good fit for this team as a way for us to bring in like a guy that's just kind of ready to play right now. I've talked about a lot with this draft class in particular that I think you're going to see these older guys move up in the draft as teams bring these younger guys into their camps. They watch them play and they're like, I'm not feeling too good about this project or whatever. Like, let me just take one of these older dudes and just kind of move on because like the upside's still not there for a lot of these guys. So I like the idea of Devin Carter. Devin Carter's a pretty good defender. He can create for himself. He got to the rim well. He only really had one season where he shot well from three, and it was like this last one. So who knows if the shot's actually real, because that's going to be a big thing for this team, right, is having a point guard that can shoot. But I just like that we can start winning some basketball games right away with him on the team, because maybe Amin is playing a wing or something like that. I'd like to keep developing Amin as a point guard because I think he could be that and be really, really good at it, and he's a smart enough basketball player to do so. He's also really valuable without the basketball and his cutting and spacing awareness, much like his brother Asar. But I think the logical choice here, while I like Connect, if we hadn't gone out and got Herder and Kennard already to kind of be floor spacers, I like Devin Carter. I think we're going to take Devin Carter with this pick. So Devin Carter would be making this much money over 4 seasons. For the time being, we're putting him here. This team, this is what I'm saying. When you get a talented team with this many young dudes on it, it's crazy, right? Like the depth on this team is absolutely gnarly. Like, do you guys see a bad player on this team necessarily? Like, okay, I'm sure somebody's going to say something about Dylan Brooks, but like, this is a good ass basketball team right here, y'all. But hey, we still got the 39th pick. Let's see who else falls. Alrighty, so we're here at the 39th pick in the draft, and just like looking at our team, right? Like, I don't know why these lines keep appearing. It's like a little glitch that happens in Google Sheets sometimes. You could say we could look at another wing. I'm not so sure what's going to happen with that. We could use another big on the team. Somebody with a little bit more height probably wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. So let's see if there's like, we could go with like a Kromke. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Extremely raw basketball player. I actually don't even know how long he's been playing basketball, but ooh, Deron Holmes is still here. Deron Holmes is someone I wouldn't be surprised if he found his way into the first round. Here's kind of the cool thing about Deron Holmes. Obviously, the stats are really, really impressive. I think it's just like a set shooter. He's actually pretty good, but to talk about the things that people love about him, his athleticism's crazy. He's a really good lob catcher. He's got really good energy, and he's able to like switch on to like people all around the court, which is really, really, really interesting. I also think his playmaking is pretty good too. Like, he kind of reminds me of Draymond Green in like some ways, some other ways not as much. But I imagine if he's given the right time to develop and everything, he's a little bit older as well, so you never know with these things. But that we also like that he's kind of ready to play right now if we need him, right? So I can see him being a guy where, like, I don't actually even know who it would be. Like, let's say Jalen Green really becomes that dude for us. He's getting blitzed off some pick and rolls or something like that. He could be a guy that we're setting the screen with and we're hitting him on the short roll, and he's kind of operating with everybody else on the team right now. So for that reason alone, I want to take Deron Holmes. In the second round, we take Deron Holmes. We get a 2-year contract on him. There goes that pick there. Okay, so the roster's technically filled out, right? But I don't want that to be the end of things, right? I want to see if we can't move Jayshawn Tate and possibly Tari Eason. I don't really know. I don't think Jeff Green's really going to have anything developed for him. We'll keep him on the roster just for a second. But I want to try and make another move now to see what else we can't get on this team, like for some of these guys. If anything else, let's take these assets that are no longer going to be that valuable to us, but they're still valuable in themselves, and let's push some of our assets back to future years. So I'm back here on the trade we made before, because you can't like save the progress on any of these things. Who is a team that could use some decent young wings? Like, I think like a Milwaukee Bucks or something. There's no way they've got like the cap space to like take on guys like that without giving up something else. Like, we'd have to take on like a Pat Connaughton or something like that, which maybe they're down for, honestly, but they just don't have the picks to give up either. Like, that's not going to work. So we have to find a team that's maybe like rebuilding or something like that and kind of go from there. Brooklyn would probably like to have some young players and they've got money to spend on things. How can we make a deal happen with Brooklyn that would benefit us to some extent? Like looking at some of the picks that they have or whatever, is this something where we can steal like some second round picks or something for Jayshawn Tate? Because Jayshawn Tate is not that valuable, but he is like, he showed promise really early on in his career and it's tapered off quite a bit. Is this something where we can save ourselves quite a bit of cap space? They get to take a chance on somebody like this 2027 Phoenix pick could end up being kind of decent for us. And I know there's going to be Rockets fans that don't like this, but I think it's as simple as just moving like a second round pick over to us here. Jayshawn Tate on his way to the Nets. And like now you could use Jayshawn Tate in like other trades and stuff, but based off of like the progression that we've already made in this video, like I just don't need him at this point involved in anything else. So and let me just make sure that like all of this works and everything. Yeah, no, that's totally fine. We take on another second round pick, a 2027. Oh, that's a 2027 first round pick. Ooh, my bad. Okay, 1 second. All right, just give us this 2028 Memphis pick then. Okay, that one can come over to us. That's totally fine. The trade still works and everything. Moved off a guy that we're paying a lot of money to basically not play. We don't really have the time to develop him anymore. He gets a chance to go be good there. We get to push a future asset down the line. So I'm cool with that. So Jayshawn Tate comes off the team. I think we're just going to let go of Jeff Green at this point. That's just fine by me. So Jeff Green comes off the roster here. Jayshawn Tate comes off the roster. Let's move these guys up in the rotation. This is still a pretty young team all said and done, which I guess is a good thing for us. Like we still want to be continuing to grow all the time, but I feel pretty good about this. We're still not in like the luxury tax really either, which is pretty insane. So, okay, this is awesome. This is awesome. Oh, and I have to add the pick. Damn, we're stealing all of the Grizzlies second round picks. That's awesome. Okay, now we're at free agency, right? We've kind of done all of this stuff here with Fanspo that we need. That's awesome. We're here in free agency now. We've let Jeff Green go. He can go explore something else. Like, I honestly wouldn't mind bringing Jeff Green back, but that's just not something that's probably going to happen. What I would like to do is bring Reggie Bullock back. I just like the fact that he's an extra shooter. He's been on a lot of good teams over the years. So, honestly, Reggie Bullock's the first person I'm throwing a minimum contract at to kind of just be a veteran wing on this team. So Reggie Bullock would get this much money for his minimum contract because he's above 10 years in the NBA at this point. We throw Reggie Bullock here. Now all of a sudden we got some shooters on this team, right? Like hopefully AP continues to be a decent enough shooter, continues to develop into one. Tari Eason we hope is going to be an okay one. We hope Deron Holmes is okay. Jabari Smith's okay. Hopefully Dylan Brooks is okay. We brought in Herter. Jalen Green is going to get better, right? Luke Kennard, Reggie Bullock, Fred VanVleet. Hopefully Devin Carter. Like, we don't have guys that you can just completely sag off on this team with now. But we still have to add one more person. Let's go try to find another center or something to bring onto this team. I think that that's probably the way we want to go with it. Who would be a great name tag? Because there are some guys that would be interesting. Do we want to just, like, what do we got right now? We've got a guy that's a skilled passer. We've got a big-time screen setter and stuff like that. We don't just necessarily have, like, a ton of height. So, like, that's something that we could look to go get. Hell, let's just look at like a Mo Bamba or something like that. Like a little bit younger legs still too. Still like decently mobile enough, and maybe, well, we've got so many young guys on this team that like, well, like let's take count, right? Like, so we got a couple young guys here. We got a young guy here, a young guy here. All of these are young guys. Maybe I do want just another veteran presence on this team, and that's something that the Rockets are taking a big priority in even right now. Like, honestly, like a Bismack Biyombo wouldn't be like the worst thing ever for this team. Goga Batadze, I feel like, is going to go for maybe a little bit over a minimum, and we can only offer a minimum. Screw it. Why not just like an Alex Len or something? Like, he's big. He's been in the NBA a while. He's just going to be looking for a minimum contract anyway, kind of the final place for him to play, if you will. So I think we honestly just give him, and yeah, no, we're not going to even hit the luxury tax with this still. So we bring in Alex Len here on a 1-year deal. That rounds out the roster. And there you have it, the 2024-2025 Houston Rockets. What did we do with this team? Obviously, we started off with trading down in the draft because we didn't feel like there was anybody worth taking. We don't need any more like projects on this team necessarily. And that's why we went and drafted Devin Carter later in the draft, someone that probably doesn't have as high of a ceiling, but fills a need for us at the point guard spot as we're trying to build depth there and everything. And he's just going to be ready to play right away, right? So we love that. We added shooting. Luke Kennard, Kevin Huerter, right? Hopefully Kevin Huerter at the end of the day. Guys like Tari Eason, I think, are going to be really valuable for us still if they come back and they're healthy. If not, we got a guy like Deron Holmes who can maybe step up a little bit earlier. Steven Adams is a new guy on the team. That's just going to be a huge help in general. You've just got depth on this team. And what's kind of cool is like a lot of these are really tradable deals that you can use, and some of them are even expiring going into this next year. So if the right player becomes available, because we went and moved back some of our assets and stuff, and the fact that we have these players, we should be able to go get somebody we really want. Because, like, let's be honest, is this team winning a championship next year? No, but the idea is that these young guys like Şengün, Jabari, and Jalen Green are going to keep getting better. Hopefully Cam Whitmore as well. Like, hopefully they're going to keep getting better. Maybe one of them is going to become a star. Like, Şengün's kind of on his way there already, I would say. But if, like, the right elite player, like, comes around, we can strike, right? We can strike. We can go get him. Maybe the Nets eventually want to get rid of Bridges or something like that, and we can flip Dylan Brooks over there and some picks pretty easily, especially since like one of these picks could be theirs. But no, I like this team a lot. I think this team has a chance to be competitive, presuming that they keep getting better and they keep developing and stuff like that. But I think we at least fix some holes that they had last year, so they should be able to compete and try to fight their way into the playoffs, right? So I like this team. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I love doing these videos. I'm curious as to when you're going to see these videos. I can't wait to watch Dallas and Celtics tonight. But hey, I appreciate you guys as always, and we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks so much. Bye.